In the midst of minorly upgraded Wii U ports like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Pokken Tournament DX, some might assume that Splatoon 2 is just a port of the Wii U game, with a few little upgrades here and there. But luckily that's not the case. Splatoon 2 is in fact a full sequel, and even though I admit, when I saw the Nintendo Direct announcement, I thought it looked more like Splatoon 1.5, now that I've played it, it definitely feels worthy of the two. Of course, most of the modes are returning from Splatoon 1 and play in basically the same way, but there are new weapons, new levels, new abilities, and even old weapons and abilities have new tweaks that just change things up and keep it fresh. For example, being able to carry the charge of a charger weapon through ink, or gaining speed the longer you roll, add more depth that you didn't even realize you were missing in the first game. You're probably already pretty familiar with the different modes, but let's run through them all anyway. First up is Turf War, which is simply covering as much ground in your team's ink as you can during the time limit. And once you reach level 10 from playing Turf War, then you unlock ranked modes, which are Rainmaker, basically capture the flag, except you're carrying the flag to the enemy's base, and the flag is a gun. You have Tower Control, where you have to paint a tower and ride it into the enemy's base. And finally, there's Splat Zones, where you'll have to ink just a particular area and try to maintain control. This time around, each ranked mode has its own rank, so now you're allowed to suck at Rainmaker and not have to worry about your Splat Zone rank going down. Also new to Splatoon 2 are League Battles, which let you play the ranked modes as a group and try to raise your rank as high as you can over the course of 2 hours. Once again, this will give you a way to play these modes without needing to worry about your rank, or if you already maxed out your rank, it's an incentive to keep playing. But don't worry, Splatoon 2 doesn't just put new stuff in old modes. Now there's a whole new co-op mode called Salmon Run. In this mode you'll be playing on a team of up to 4 players against waves of enemies that will approach from all sides. Occasionally, boss enemies will appear, and they have different ways of being defeated. Once defeated, they drop some golden orbs which will have to be collected and brought back to the base. Your goal is to get enough orbs per wave to meet the target amount, and also make sure that your whole team doesn't die. No two attempts at Salmon Run are quite the same, because each wave is somewhat randomized. You're given a random weapon, the enemies come from random sides, the boss enemies vary, the water level goes up and down, and obviously you're going to be playing with different people. The better you do, the more points you get, and the more points you get, the more bonuses you can unlock. For example, unique gear, money to buy more gear from the shops, and tickets to get items from the new Crust Bucket food truck. Speaking of the Crust Bucket, unlike in the first game where getting the correct gear with the right abilities that you wanted was really a big pain and very dependent on luck, now you can get items that will increase the likelihood of getting your preferred ability. There's also the character Merch, who, like in Splatoon 1, will deliver requested items, but this time you can also remove abilities from a piece of gear, and then save up the chunks that you get from it to apply that ability to some other piece of gear. It still takes quite a lot of work to get exactly what you want, but at least now it's more in the player's control, instead of just grinding and hoping. Thanks to the Switch's portability, local multiplayer now makes a lot more sense. It's fun and easy to use. Or, well, that's what I assume anyway. I don't actually have anybody to play with at this point. But I was able to see that it has quite a few options, and it'll let you play any mode at any time. Which, by the way, this game still has that level rotation thing where only a couple maps are available per 2 hours. Yeah, I don't know if you like that or not, but hey, at least it means that you don't see everything the game has to offer in a couple hours. Not that you would anyway, because even though we do a lot of talking about multiplayer, and this game is pitched as a multiplayer game, the single player is really, really good, and there's a lot to it. There's a ton of new gameplay elements that keep things interesting, and you can play every level with every weapon, and the game will even track which levels you've beaten with which weapon, as well as your fastest time. Completionists will find that there is a lot of reason to keep coming back for single player. On top of that, there's a rhythm game for the sound test, which is surprisingly fun and surprisingly challenging. It'll even track whether you've cleared songs on normal or hard difficulty for each track in the game. I was just trying it out, and I ended up playing this mode alone for a whole hour at least. Oh hey, by the way, Amiibo, they do things. I just have a couple of the original Splatoon 1 Amiibo myself, but so far they give you gear, the same gear that they gave you in the first game. Also music tracks for the sound test, and you can take pictures with the Amiibo characters in the city as well. Probably the most useful thing they do, though, is let you save your loadout and controller settings to the Amiibo, and then quickly load it back in whenever you want to use those particular settings. It's a really useful feature, but it's also really odd that this is limited to Amiibo. You'd think that this would just be a standard feature with the game, instead of locked behind an Amiibo for some reason. There's still plenty more I could say about Splatoon 2, but you know how the internet is, there's no attention span anymore. If you really care that much, you can read the written review on whattheycallgames.com. With all the content that Splatoon 2 already has and the promise of free updates in the future, it really does feel worthy of being called a sequel. Any complaints I have are hardly worth mentioning, like not being able to save your loadout except for using an Amiibo, or needing to watch the news announcements of what levels are in rotation every time you turn on the game. In general, it's just improved in every way over the first game, and anyone who liked the first game is going to love this one. Anybody who didn't like the first game, well, you're probably not going to like this one either. But hey, even though I liked it, who cares what I think? Listen to the facts, and you make your own decision. Thanks for watching, and stay fresh.